All right. Well, good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome back to school. And I hope you had a good spring break. We'll go ahead and take a look here. This is Stats 102B. Let's see. I just published the course late last night, so I don't know if you've taken a look, but make sure you read over the syllabus. Sorry, it gets bigger and bigger I feel like every quarter. It's like up to 10 pages now, and it comes with its own table of contents. But it should answer most of your questions regarding how does grading work, how to, what do you expect. Planning to have 2 midterm exams and a final, so more like three exams. Pretty. That's what we're looking at here. Okay, so let me see what else. Office hours schedule. This is what we have. Okay, so yeah. No, wait. Okay, okay, yeah, exam date. Yeah, they've scheduled us to have our final exam on Friday of finals week, which is unfortunate. Of course, I never want a Friday final, and I don't think anybody else wants a Friday final, but alas, we are just subject to what the registrar says. And I didn't pick this classroom, but here we are. We get to enjoy a nice long walk around the campus in the Public Affairs building. So that's where we are. I do have a little bit of travel scheduled for this quarter. I'm going to travel this weekend to try to go see the eclipse, and then so you'll get a pre-recorded lecture, and then in May I'm going to attend a Python conference. It's called PyCon, so it's looking forward to that. So you'll get some pre-recorded lectures during that time. But that's what we've got. Okay. Let me see. What else do I need to cover regarding the syllabus? I don't know. Anything else? Okay. So office hours. So okay. I think actually, you know what? Let's go through this. I think I've got most of my highlights right here. Oh, yeah, my name is Miles Chen. A lot of you have had me before as a teacher, whether it was 102A or Stats 21 or maybe Stats 15 or something. Some of you, this might be your first class with me, and that's great. Welcome. I give you permission to call me by my first name, Miles, but if you're not so comfortable with that, you can call me Professor Chen, Dr. Chen. That's fine. Okay. And I say this, and I hate to say this, but it's true. And so I'm bad at email. You can email me. Just don't expect a quick response. All right. I'll get back to you in a few days. And if it's a question that has already been answered, in the syllabus or something like that, I might not even respond. Okay. If you need an immediate response to your question, come to office hours. All right, I've got office hours during the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, also on Saturday mornings. So I'll try to, I can't ignore you in office hours. So come and I will give you an answer there. If it's kind of I need help understanding a topic or something, I would say post your questions to CampusWire. You should have received an invite, I think, to CampusWire, and you can post there. And generally, one of your classmates will respond and answer. And I think that will be good. Yeah, that's that. This is the breakdown of our grades. Homework is worth the most, and that's because I think that's where the most learning happens, is in the homework. Homework assignments are long and they're challenging. It's intended to be that way. I believe that's where a lot of your learning is going to go. Okay, grading on a straight scale. I don't curve. All right. As far as attendance goes, I will be doing lecture view quizzes, and so I will give you during the lecture. I will tell you. The answer to the first question is some letter. Okay, and on Canvas each week, there's a little lecture viewing quiz. If it'll load up. And you just have to answer those questions. So let's see. So for example, if I do preview, so this is what it looks like. There's no context to the questions, and the only way you get the answers is through the lecture. And so question 1, the first answer is going to be the letter D. D as in dog. Okay. And that's that, D as in dog for question 1. And I will give you the answers to questions 2 and 3 later on. I might only give some of the answers in the video, and some of the answers might be reserved just for those who attend live. Okay. I think last quarter I gave all of my answers in the video, and I had maybe less than 10% attendance by towards the end of the quarter. And I don't know, maybe you get everything you want out of the video. I do feel like I do want students in seats, and maybe I don't know. But anyway, so that's so there might be a couple times where not all of the answers are given in the video. Okay, just a heads up there. But we'll see. Okay, so that's how lecture viewing quizzes will go. You have to answer the quiz before the next lecture. So today's quiz will close before Wednesday. Okay. Homework, you'll submit your homeworks on Gradescope. I think everybody's been added to Gradescope. If you just added the class today or something, maybe you're not in Gradescope, but I think I updated the roster last night. Let's see. Make sure you tag your pages on Gradescope. Okay, that's very important. All right. So as far as the grading goes, when you submit your homework, it will ask you to tag which problem goes to which page. Make sure you do that. Okay. If you don't do that, your initial round, it's going to be graded as 0. We might allow you to do a regrade, but you got to make sure you submit and fill out forms correctly. All right. It's the same thing with like filing your taxes and things like that. If you don't, if you do it yourself by hand or something and you don't do it properly, they're not going to accept it. Okay. So so make sure you do things correctly. If you need an extension, you can just submit documentation, submit it late. Generally, a 72-hour extension is kind of my default. If you need more than that, come talk to me. Okay. That's that. Okay. All right. I don't know. Any other questions about course policy stuff? All right. Let's take a look. I wrote, what is this class about? Okay, so this is Stats 102B, and I like to think of this as kind of a machine learning class. Not every person who teaches 102B takes a machine learning approach to it, but I kind of like I like to think of it that way, and I'm trying to push for a rename of the course, but we'll see. Data science overall is often described as kind of consisting of these three different areas: the ability to code, coding skills, also some foundational math and stats knowledge, and then you combine that with just subject matter expertise. So here we write domain expertise, and the combination of those things we might call data science. Here we have coding skills combined with math stats knowledge. This Venn diagram calls that machine learning. If you take your traditional math and stats knowledge and your subject expertise, that might be your traditional research, okay? And then when you kind of combine that with coding, then you get data science. This over here, the danger zone, is kind of the ability to kind of code and throw things into algorithms and packages and whatnot, and a lot of machine learning algorithms and things now come in these nice little packaged systems, in that you just kind of call up the library, you throw in your data, and it can spit out an answer. And if you do that without any of kind of the math or the math background or the foundational knowledge, you might be misapplying these things, and you might be making conclusions where it is not appropriate to make conclusions. So that's called the danger zone. As far as this class goes, we're able to kind of provide you a little bit of kind of the coding ability and kind of the math or the stats background there. Okay. As far as subject matter expertise, that's going to differ for basically every subject. And so we can't do like true data science in this class without picking out a particular data set, and without being a data set that we're familiar and have knowledge about. Okay. I also teach an intro data science class, Stats 15. And in that class, I do a final project. And I always tell my students, pick for your final project a data set that you're familiar with, that at least one person in your group can be considered a quote-unquote expert. And that's because without that familiarity, the numbers or the values in your data set just have no context or meaning. For example, the baseball season just started up. And if you're familiar with baseball, there's certain numbers that you can make sense of, okay? So, there's, for pitching stats, there's like ERA, all right? And if you're not familiar with baseball, you would have no idea if an ERA of, say, 2.5 is good or bad, okay? Or an ERA of 12, is that good or bad, okay? And you might see all of these numbers, and they might be all over the place, and you would have no idea what's a good or bad thing, and so if you see something like a 45, what does that mean? Probably the pitcher had a bad one bad inning and got pulled right away, and you can end up with something like a ERA 45 or something like that. But if you're not familiar with baseball, this is just a number, okay? Similarly, if you see a data set on human weight, okay, then you at least have some familiarity, right? If you're using American imperial units, okay, and you see somebody, a weight of 160 pounds, that seems very reasonable, okay? And then, you might even see weights like 300 pounds, and that's also within the realm of reason. But then, you see certain numbers like 800 or 1,000 or something like that, then you want to start looking a little bit more closely and seeing, you know, is this a real number or is this a mistake, right? We have a little bit of context there, and you need that kind of knowledge regarding the numbers, because if you see, you know, a data set about, I don't know, vehicles or cars or something like that, and you have no familiarity with that, and you see some number, you know, 245, is that a reasonable number? Is that an outlier? Is that unusual? Something like that. You need to have that kind of substantive expertise or subject matter knowledge there, okay? So anyway, I wrote, this course kind of presents material from the overlap of the coding skills and the math stats knowledge. We call this machine learning, and we will certainly cover some important machine learning algorithms, okay? I presume that you have taken 102A, that is a prerequisite, and you are comfortable writing code. I like to think of the analogy I like to give is that, you know, I don't know, in kindergarten, you were learning how to read, okay? You were learning your letters, you were learning to put your letters together to form words, and you were learning how to read. And probably kindergarten, first grade, you were learning how to read. And then somewhere along the way, maybe by the time you were in third or fourth grade, you were now reading to learn, okay? It was no longer about how to read, learning how to read, but now you were reading things to learn things, okay? And so there's a transition where you go from learning how to read to reading to learn. And similarly, I think Stats 20 and maybe kind of the first part of 102A is learning how to code. And there's a kind of a strong emphasis on just learning how to put your ideas and things like that, and learning how to do things with code. And 102A kind of represents this transition class where you go from learning how to code to now coding to not learn or maybe learn, but to like do things, okay? And so this class now assumes you're okay with coding, and now we're going to be taking ideas, and we're going to be taking these ideas, and we're going to be writing code to express those ideas and concepts and kind of algorithms that way, okay? We throw that word algorithm around. Algorithm is basically just a set of instructions that will lead you somewhere, okay? It's really just code, but it's just, you know, what kind of set of instructions do you use, and where will it take you? So I'm expecting you guys to be familiar with your ability to code, okay? All of the algorithms that we're going to learn, not all of them, but a lot of them I'm going to force you to kind of code by hand. The truth is all of these algorithms are already coded by someone else in a professional package, okay? So you have packages in R that can do k-means clustering or k-nearest neighbors or whatever. You can load up Python and you can do scikit-learn and do k-nearest neighbors or k-means clustering, or, you know, whatever it might be. But I make you learn, or I make you code a lot of these things by hand, and your own handwritten code will not be as elegant, will not be as efficient as these professional things. So, you know, once you graduate and you work and things like that, you're not going to be writing any of these things by hand, okay? But I do think there is merit and there's learning that happens when you do things yourself by hand, right? It's kind of like, I don't know, in elementary school, did you ever like make your own little solar oven, or you make your own little motor or battery, or you made your own little dumb device out of like basic materials found around the house, okay? And it was kind of fun, right? But of course, in real life, if you needed to cook a hot dog, you're not going to take a bunch of mirrors and point them together, right? You just use the stove or use the oven or something like that, okay? But I think there's learning that happens when you understand, when you make something kind of rudimentary with your own hands, okay? In this case, kind of like typing out the code yourself. I think there's learning that happens, and you understand, yes, in in the package, it's just a more refined version of what we've done. Okay, but here I'm just kind of writing these things out by hand. Okay. All right, here's a list of topics that we're going to cover, and that's what we're going to do. You know, as far as machine learning models, there's a whole lot more stuff we could add. You know, people might say, "Oh, why don't you do this? And why are you including this?" You know, this is just what I've picked. All right, so that's what we're going to get. Okay, I think it's pretty decent. There's a lot of overlap between, you know. People complain about overlap, but I think overlap is great, okay? There's a lot of overlap between this class and, say, Stats 101C. I also teach Stats 101C, and in that class, we do machine learning stuff and we apply machine learning. That one is more so like applied in that, like, I don't cover how any of the algorithms work. It's now like, okay, here's the package. Let's use the package for the data sets. And it's like, if you need to do some actual, so this would be like, this class would be like building a little oven with mirrors and stuff, okay? Or perhaps, I don't know, you create an oven and by hand, okay? And then the next class would be like a cooking class where you don't need to worry about creating the oven yourself, okay? And we just teach you how to do things, okay? So 101C would be more on the applications. As far as how this class fits in with the bigger picture, this class and 101C, a lot of the topics are related to larger data sets, okay? Statistics was founded or created or whatever you want to call it. As a subject, it was being discovered and explored at a time where data was very expensive. What I mean by that was gathering data was time consuming, costly, and you would only get a few data points, okay? They had, you would do like agricultural applications of statistics, and they wanted to know what was the right combination of water and fertilizer and sunlight and I don't know, whatever else goes in, you know, pesticide or whatever. And they wanted to know what was the right combination to use that's going to yield the greatest amount of like crop growth, okay? What do you call it? And so it would take like an entire year from planting and cultivation and all of that to harvest to get one data point, okay? And you might dedicate an entire field to like 25 different combinations there, and it would take an entire year just to get like 25 data points, okay? And so the subject 101B, design of experiments, was all about how do you maximize the amount of information you get out of all of that labor that you're going to do to gather your data. In 101, have you guys taken 101B? Are you guys going to take that right now? Okay. Do you know if you're going to do a project? Probably, okay? You might have to do a project where there's like this simulated island and you like survey people on the island, okay? That's one of the projects. Another one is like you might actually just have to do an experiment yourself, okay? And if you've ever used this island experiment, it's very frustrating and it's very time consuming. You say, so like, I want to gather like 300 data points, and then you go, oh no, it's going to take me like 20 hours to get 300 data points, okay? And then so you say, okay, well, can we do it with just 100 data points, right? And that's the same problem like real scientists face. They say, oh, we want to do this medical experiment on 500 people. And then they say, okay, well, you got to pay all of these people to like do these measurements and stuff, and that's going to cost you $5 million for 500 people. You go, okay, never mind. Let's do 100 people, all right? Or something like that. And so if you only have a little bit of data, how do you make sure you're going to get a significant result, right? Because it would be really disappointing if you do all of this labor and then your p-value comes back 0.5, and you're like, well, inconclusive, okay? So you want to, that's what the whole design of experiments is, okay? It's all about how do I try to maximize the information I'm going to get, okay? And 101A is, you know, basically the foundation, right? the ANOVA builds out of kind of some of these concepts from regression and things like that. And so that comes from a time where data is really expensive. Interpretability is important. Now we have this opposite problem where we've just generated so much data from our phones and computers, and now we don't even know what to do with it, and we have to, you have millions, if not billions, of rows of data, and it's all entangled, and so these algorithms are used to kind of peel apart those things. Okay, 102C, also a lot of fun. That's deals more like with Bayesian stuff, which is like a whole different approach and philosophy to these things. But anyway, that's kind of how these things fit. Oh, okay, I got to talk about academic integrity. All right. Well, let me give you your second view quiz answer. The letter C, C as in cat, is your second view quiz answer. C as in cat. I just have to appeal to your own sense of like, I want to be employed and have a good job or something after this. Okay, I have to appeal to that because the truth is, you could, if you search hard enough, you can find the code out there. Okay, you can find answers. And actually, I mean, searching might not even be the right thing. If you ask the right question of the AI, it can probably write the code for you. Okay, a lot of these, it's like every few months they release a new version of ChatGPT or Gemini or Bard or whatever. Gemini, Bard is Gemini. I don't know, whatever. Copilot, things like that. They release a new version and it does like more and more and more. And now, now it's doing art and making music and all kinds of stuff, which is great. But as far as you learning yourself, you got to do it yourself. Okay, if you want to learn, you got to do it yourself. Having someone else do it for you or having the machine do it for you is not going to help. Okay. I guess the question is coding something I need to learn, right? Because taking square roots, I don't know how to take a square root by myself. I have to ask a calculator, okay? And I think somewhere along the way we said, you know what? Taking a square root by hand yourself is not that important. You can always just ask the calculator. And I don't know if maybe somewhere down the line we're going to say like coding by yourself is not important and you can just ask the computer to do it. I don't think we're there yet, okay? So right now, learning how to code and learning how to do all of this stuff yourself is going to be important. Maybe, learning how to use a map used to be an important thing, and now we just use the GPS, and I think everybody's navigation skills are like really, really, really terrible these days, because we like if I just say, hey, give me directions to I don't know, the Century City Mall. Can you get there on your own without the GPS? Maybe some of you could do it, maybe some of you can't. But or Sawtell or whatever. We've become really reliant on GPS, and studies have shown that being reliant on the GPS makes you like really terrible at navigation yourself when you take it away. And so I think right now we're still at a time where knowing how to code yourself is important. I don't know if that's going to change in the future, but we'll see. But right now, doing it yourself I think is important, and so having someone else do it for you or having the AI do it for you is not going to help your learning. Okay. Once you graduate and you're working, I think it's okay to use whatever tools available to help you out. Okay, because that's a job. But and so I always make this comparison about going to the gym. All right. When you go to the gym to lift weights, the goal of going to the gym is to get stronger, right? Build stronger muscles. And that requires you to do the work yourself. You have to lift the weights yourself. If you have somebody else lift the weights for you, you aren't going to get stronger, okay? If the goal of going to the gym was to see weights getting lifted off the ground, sure, you could ask somebody else to lift the weights for you. But that's not the goal. That defeats the point, right? If you go to the gym and you say, I'm not feeling it today. Hey, can I give you some money and will you lift these weights for me? And then they lift the weights for you and you say, all right, great, we had a good workout today. That defeats the point, right? And similarly, when I give you a homework assignment, I don't care about, I don't need these algorithms coded, all right? I could just use a package if I needed the algorithm, right? The point of me giving you the homework is to give you an opportunity to exercise and practice and code yourself. And so do it yourself, and don't ask somebody to do it or for you, or don't copy someone else, because that defeats the point. The point of the homework is for you to learn and get better. And when you struggle, that's actually a good sign, okay? Because if you only do things that are easy to you, your brain isn't going to see the need to form new neural connections, right? The way we learn things is we struggle through it and our brain says, man, this is hard, okay? Because right now, the signals have to go this long route around your head to get to the answer. And your brain says, man, that was hard. And then when you go to sleep, okay, so sleep is important, your brain's gonna form new connections, right? And then next time, it feel like, oh, something clicked and now I get it. That was your brain forming a connection, so it doesn't have to go trace a long route, but now it says, oh, you know what? We had to make this long path, but now we've got a connection here and we can get the task done, okay? But you've got to kind of put your brain under a little bit of stress and difficulty for it to say, hey, you know what? It's worth spending the energy and effort to form this new connection. And so, when you say, oh yeah, something clicked and I got better, that's because your brain has formed these connections, all right? And if you only do things that are easy, or you don't, because, let's face it, we don't like having to struggle, right? So if you only do things that are easy, your brain's not going to see the need to form any new connections, okay? So you got to do that, right? I think that's right. Okay, so the goal is to get stronger at the gym. The goal is to get better at coding yourself, better at learning these algorithms, and that's how it goes. Okay. Plagiarism, I think, is a result of students getting these goals mixed up. At the end of the day, I do have to evaluate you on something and assign grades and things like that. And if you confuse and you say, getting a good grade is more important than the learning, then yes, plagiarism makes sense. Okay, plagiarism makes sense if you're going to say a good grade is more important than learning. But I don't think that's the case, okay? And so I have to appeal to you and say learning is more important than getting a good grade, okay? As far as the homework goes, it's intended to be challenging. It's intended to be at a certain difficulty level where it feels like a challenge, but also not impossible, okay? And if you feel stretched by the homework, then I feel like that's what we want, okay? If you're not able to complete the homework to 100%, turn in what you have. I can't give you 100% on the assignment, okay? The graders are going to grade it, and you'll lose points if you didn't complete it. But I think that makes sense, okay? All right, there's a collaboration policy and academic integrity agreement that you have to kind of sign and turn in. That's your week one homework. That's due on Friday, okay? CampusWire, you can ask and discuss code and things like that on CampusWire, just not homework problems, all right? So when it comes to homework problems, don't say, hey, how did you do this, okay? Or, what? Can you share your code for this, right? I think there's a lot of ways you can answer how I did this or how did you do this without necessarily sharing code. Any code that appears in lectures and stuff, however, you can discuss that on CampusWire. Keep each other in check there, okay? I always give this spiel. If you've taken multiple classes with me, this is going to be like your multiple time hearing this. But I do want to say this, and I think this is important, is that there's a balance to all of these things. Right now, it's grades, balancing grades and life. The rest of your life, it's going to be balancing work and life, and balancing all of these different aspects here. All right, let me go ahead and give you your last view quiz answer. Third view quiz answer today is E. E as in elephant. E as in elephant. Okay, number one, your grades do not define you. Okay, grades play a role. Certainly they were important as far as you getting here to UCLA, okay? I think, they just admitted the next class of, what is that, 2028? Is that the incoming class, right? All of these children coming, well, I guess they're still in high school and they haven't turned 18. I guess they're still technically kids, right? But anyway, and the admission rates keep going down. What is it now? It's like 8.9% freshman admit rate or something, and for like CS program, it's like 3.4%. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to get into here at UCLA, but you guys made it, and I suspect you all had good grades in high school or community college before you transferred or things like that. Okay, and so much of your energy is poured into your academics and things like that, and so of course grades feel very important. Okay, but I think while you are a student, grades feel much more important than people outside of school, how they view grades. Okay, like maybe your parents feel like they're important or things like that, but like some random person on the street, they don't care about anybody else's grades. Okay, of course it feels good to get good grades. It feels bad to get bad grades. I still remember like studying for an exam and then just bombing it and just doing terrible, and then just like it feels bad. I get it. Okay, but don't tie your identity to your grades. Okay, that was a problem I had. I might have shared this story. My freshman year of college, I actually failed out. So in high school, I studied hard and I got good grades, and I got into my dream school, Caltech. Okay, California Institute of Technology. I thought I was going to work for NASA or something like that, and I was really excited. I went there. Fall quarter, they were on quarter system also. Fall quarter, I got my first C ever, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've never gotten a C before in my life. And then winter quarter, I got my first D ever, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've never gotten a D before in my life. And then spring quarter, you can see the trajectory, right? Spring quarter, things just fell apart, right? It's like I couldn't tough it out. I failed multiple classes. I was put on academic probation, and they were like, when you come back, you need to have this high of a GPA. And I had never gotten that high of a GPA before. Like, right, my fall quarter was like the best quarter, and they were like, if you want to stay, when you come back, you need to have this high of a GPA. And I'm like, I've never even had that, and I had the easy classes in fall, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I was depressed, and I had the problem also was I had tied so much of my identity, who I was, to my grades. Like in high school, I don't think this is a surprise, I was not a star athlete. I was not, I didn't go to parties or anything like that, but I was comfortable with who I was, and I felt like, oh, you know what, I'm getting good grades, and I said, I'm okay because I have good grades, and I tied my identity to my grades. And so when I went in my freshman year of college, when my grades were bad, I felt like I as a person was a failure. Okay, and that was a struggle. I was depressed, and I did not know what to do. I'm grateful. My parents, especially my father, was very supportive, and he basically told me that this dream I had of going to Caltech and whatnot, it wasn't worth the kind of the mental toll it was taking on me. And so I ended up just dropping out. I said I'm not going to return in the fall, and I transferred to a different school in Michigan, Kettering University, a small engineering school. And over there, I think kind of just the change in scenery and the change in kind of pace and expectations and things like that, I was able to do a lot better. But yeah, it took this kind of painful experience also for me to detach and separate my identity from my grades. And I don't wish that pain upon anybody, but I am grateful for that lesson that I learned, not to tie myself and not to tie my identity to my grades. And so anyway, all this to say, you as a person are so much more than what letters appear on your transcript, okay? And yeah, just, a failing quarter and things like that is not gonna derail you. I feel like things worked out okay for me. So anyway, that's a little story from my life regarding my relationship with grades. Okay. I have this slide about work-life balance, or a couple slides on work-life balance, and this is probably going to be something that you have to deal with for the rest of your life, because there's always going to be a bunch of different things that will demand your time and attention. And it is impossible to give 100% to everything, all right? I put these in 3 broad categories of work, relationships, and self. Work is going to be things like literal work, having a job. Right now, for you guys, it's also school and academics. Some of you have jobs and are doing academics, and you might have other professional obligations and clubs and things like that. You're going to have work, okay? The other part is relationships with family, friends. You might have a romantic partner, other social obligations, also clubs and things like that. And then taking care of yourself, all right? You got to take care of your physical health. That's eating well, sleeping, exercising. Take care of your mental health, which includes sleeping and doing things that are fun, that you like and make you happy, entertainment. Okay, spiritual health, if you are spiritual or religious. These things are important, okay? And there's only 24 hours in a day, okay? You can't give, 100% to everything. So you gotta figure things out. And I think, the goal of work-life balance isn't that everything gets 100%, okay? The goal of work-life balance is that you are happy and content with where your energies are going, okay? And that means you have to make choices. And you have to say, all right, this is more important, and I'm going to put less time over here, okay? And when I put less time over here, this part of my life is not going to flourish. The parts that I am putting time and energy into are going to flourish a little bit more. And I'm putting less time and energy over here, and I am okay with these aspects of my life not flourishing as much, okay? And that's how that goes. Even this is a silly example, but I saw this happen during my college years. In that, we were in groups of friends, and then somebody would have get a girlfriend or something, a romantic partner, and then suddenly they're spending a whole bunch of time with their romantic partner, and we're happy for them. But they don't have as much time to hang out with us, and there's just this naturally, we're not as close as we used to be, okay? And that happens. And it's not like there's no bad blood or jealousy or bitterness there. It's just, we don't spend as much time as we used to, and so we're not as close as as we used to be, right? You know, today, you know, I have a family. I've got 2 girls, and you know, I try to spend as much time as I can with my family and things like that. And I don't have as much time to hang out with friends as I used to. Okay, and so I'm, you know, when I think back to like who was in my wedding party when I got married, and I was like really close, you know, really close to my best man and things like that. And you know, we probably see each other like we went on vacation together last year, and we spent like a week together, you know, our families. But before that, like the last time I had seen him was, you know, a few years before that. Okay, and so we just don't spend as much time as we used to, and so I'm not as close. There's still good you know, familiarity and friendship there, but you know, just not as close as they used to be, right? And I'm okay with that. I've made these choices. I've chosen to spend a lot of time with my family and whatnot, and that's how it's going to be, right? As far as work and school and friends and things like that, you've got to make choices. Is it more important to spend time with relationships, more important to invest time in work or things like that? And just know that when you make choices, the things that you are not picking will generally not flourish as much as the things that you are picking to put time into. And if you can say, I'm okay with these decisions, I'm okay with kind of prioritizing this, investing time into this, and I'm okay with these things not flourishing as much, I think you can be happy, right? And that's going to be how you achieve balance. Is you pick what's important to you, and you pursue that. Okay. Self-care is important. Make sure you get sleep. It's easy for me to say that over here when I'm not you, but if you don't take care of sleep and your own physical health, you know, other things suffer. Okay, so do that. You know, and this is not just some empty words I'm saying. Okay, sometimes that means not. Like if you're saying in this moment it's more important that I sleep and take care of myself than it is to get my homework done, then make that decision. The consequence of that is you didn't finish your homework and you're not going to get 100% in your homework. But if you're okay with that decision, then more power to you. Okay. I don't know. Beware fruitless entertainment. We'll end there. Okay. We'll wrap up here for today. We'll start in earnest on our lecture content and whatnot. No office hours today, but I will see you on Wednesday.